I'm going to start the recording. These guys are sitting by the pool upstairs here in Fujairah, looking out over the beauty of the day. Um,
Nice.
and this is their first experience in being with us. So some newbies. Pretty
So we best be on our
exciting.
best behavior, right?
Oh, hell no. Let's just show them what it's all about. Hello, Miss Deidre. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. And Miss Nicola, she's there too. So Mohammed and Anna are new with us, and they're just hanging out and just listening and see what's going on. Deirdre, I love your background, Miss Nod. At. Um,
Yeah, I'm at school.
yeah, poor you. What the heck are you doing there?
Maybe escaping my family for a few hours. I don't know.
Oh, I understand that too. Um, just
That's a
to
worry when school is an escape from family, right?
just to locate people around the universe. So Nick's on, and Nick's in Al Ain. Anna and Muhammad are here in Fujairah. Angelique is over in the Al Dhafra. I'm not allowed to call it the Western region anymore. And Deirdre's in New Zealand. If Vicky joins us, she'll come in from India. We might get Cam from Oz. You might get Bronny and those guys out of New Zealand and things too. Jaden said he might join, and Sarge said if she wakes up. So let's see. I'll just send Sarge a little message. Anna might jump in from South Africa too. So let's see. Right. How are we all? Miss Angelique.
I'm good. It's Sunday, right?
Sunday, right? Yeah. And Miss Deirdre, you getting ready for work tomorrow?
Nah, I'm already ready for work. I'm just doing all the maths planning.
Oh God. After no
They're
play.
making the slideshows. Yeah,
Okay.
but
But
it's great.
do you guys start back tomorrow?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. All right. So you've had 2 weeks break
yes,
and
ish.
into winter.
Yes, but it's still not cold here. Well, for me, for you guys, it's probably freezing.
Okay, well, I'm glad I've got you on and I'm recording because you are my first target this morning. Um,
Ooh.
Okay, and because I've got nothing but questions for people, and I've got a couple of little insights actually of just people I've caught up with. I put it in the newsletter that I sent out. But Deirdre, New Zealand's got a whole lot of vacancies at the moment for teachers,
Yeah.
and I am getting loads of people here asking me, okay, how do I get a job in New Zealand? And I don't know from your side how do they get a job in New Zealand? Like they're qualified teachers. Let's say, like Anna's not looking at the moment. She's got a couple of jobs out there. But let's say Anna is looking. She's qualified. She's been teaching over here. How does she apply for and get a job into New Zealand?
Um, well, I mean, the best way to do it is you apply to, to the positions that are advertised because the schools will take care of everything. So they'll, they'll be the ones that, well, not take care of everything, but they'll be the ones that help action everything to get you in country, get through the ministry stuff, all that. It's nigh impossible to do it for yourself if you don't have a job to go to.
Okay, so
Unless you're a returning Kiwi.
yeah, yeah. Returning Kiwis or people with permanent residency or the right to work in New
Yeah.
Zealand. So, what process do you know? Hi, Jaden. Perfect timing.
Good morning. How are you?
So, let's say Anna or Jaden or Mohammed or somebody wants to apply for a job in New Zealand. They would go to somewhere like the Gazette, like the Ed Gazette, um,
Um,
find the
yep.
school that they want to apply for, write a delightful application and put like Kiwi references all through it. And then they would say to the school, like, do they have to do their teacher registration first, or does that happen as part of the process once they're there? Or
As long as they're currently registered and generally for people who teach overseas, it's their home country, isn't it? As long as you're have a current registration, then that's accepted, but there will be some other things that you have to go through. So they would do like, just like when you go to other countries, they check that your qualifications are up to their standard, or, I don't exactly know because I never have jobs going.
Okay, so that's the qualification framework. So that's the New Zealand qualification verification framework and things. But I know loads of New Zealand principals are now recruiting offshore. And so is there anywhere, do you know anywhere, are you able to find anywhere for us that we can get a link where people can access directly and look up like the Ministry of Education process? Do you know anywhere?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can send a couple of emails and find links for you and share it with you.
That would be super useful because honestly, like we've got a lot of people who are really, really interested in working New Zealand Australian side. Now I know for South Africans going into Australia, particularly, there's a really big process that they go through, and they've got to be under this age, and they've got to do the X, Y, Z, and they wait for their sponsorship and things. But I really don't know the New Zealand process terribly well, but I know a lot of South Africans go there to teach.
It's a little bit different now because of the shortage. There's been a couple of rule changes to try and support the coming in of qualified teachers from overseas. So there definitely has been a shift in that. The principals group said, why bother even interviewing teachers from overseas when it's so difficult to get them in that we're still waiting 6 months. So sometime last year there was a bit of a change. I'm not exactly what it is, but apparently it's supposed to make it easier.
Okay. And are people because once upon a time when I was principal in New Zealand, there was a genuine bias against international recruits. Is there more of a receptive, are people more receptive to it now?
Well, if you go into a big school, don't count little schools, but if you go into a big school, you will find, many nationalities, ethnicities in those schools. So lots of different accents and, so it's a really cool thing. Small schools are still very small school.
Yeah.
But most overseas teachers don't really want to slot into a little school anyway, because that's quite a mish. Yeah, it would be very different dropping into a school of 30 something after you've been in a school of 3,000.
Yeah, but some people might like that,
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a culture shock though.
And I'm also thinking for people like Mohammed, and Mohammed's hasn't spoken to me at all about doing this, but Mohammed's bilingual, Arabic, PE, all of those things. Now, New Zealand's got an ever-growing Arabic speaking community, and the workforce there, morning Manal, the workforce there are becoming, there's more and more of a need for bilingual speakers of different languages, and particularly an Arabic speaker.
Yeah, Andrew King.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. The other one is I was bailed up the other day just because of my Kiwi accent. Kiwi's actually a really scarce on the ground here. We're pretty endangered species, but people hunt us out, But someone asked me about going into a small school principalship, your single principalships and things like that. What's the chance of that?
Oh, massive at the moment. It's a really hard gig, not to get, gotta say, but to last and to not get locked in. So if you're younger and you think you're going to use it as a stepping stone, be really careful. Do not even look at sole charges. You'll get stuck. And it's really difficult to get into a bigger school. Doesn't matter how good you are, because these days they tend to be taking the DPs and the So those middle managers, as opposed to someone who's had to do all of the management, middle and upper.
Right. So what's the
Yeah.
next career step if you did get into a sole charge? Now, a sole charge for people online who are listening and thinking, hello, Miss Vicky, all the way from
Hello.
West
Hi there.
Moomba.
Yes.
We're just talking about, you could be really helpful for this too, Vicky, actually. We're just talking about people who are wanting to enter a job market, trying and to get into New Zealand, and how they go about it and things. And I'm just talking with Deirdre, she's taking the lead on this one at the moment. But if people took a sole charge, now a sole charge is when you go in and you're the only person teaching and working and leading in the school. You might have somebody that comes in one day a week as a release teacher or something, but you might actually be running a school out in the country with a whole school of 12 students or 20 students or something like that. 20 is getting a bit high. And so what is the next career path if you are a sole charge? Do you have to go to like a middle management somewhere else, like a team leader or a VP or something like that?
If you wanted to stay in principalship, it would be the next size U1 type school,
Okay,
just to show that you can actually work with people,
right.
not just kids. And then from there, you would try and go up the chain, so whether it be another small principalship, maybe just one slightly bigger, or if it's a DP in a big school, a walking DP in a bigger school. But around here, we noticed that a lot of the principals who were applying for jobs and were, good at what they do, weren't getting them, and DPs were getting them.
Yeah.
And it's only probably one from here who got a job in a bigger school in the city, and they took a chance.
Yeah.
So it's interesting at the moment. So it doesn't seem to be a fantastic pathway to larger schools if that's what you're looking at it as a stepping stone.
Okay,
I don't know.
but
What do you think,
as an
Vicky?
option of coming in and things. So yeah, like Vicky, you
Yeah.
made the move from Canada and then went into New Zealand and worked there. Hang on, you're on mute, hun. You're still on mute, Miss Vicky.
It
There
wasn't
you go.
moving back to the screen that would let me unmute. It kept taking me into settings, but not the mute setting, the fancy background setting. For me, I made the move from Canada, but I went to teachers college, and it was at a time where they were truly desperate for teachers. They were bringing in literally plane loads, and they had full page newspaper ads in other countries. And that's the pathway that I took. It was a time when they really needed people, so there was a variety of vacancies. I was looking to get into teaching, and then by the time I got to a place in my career where I could look for management, you were waiting for people to retire, and
Right.
so that's what took me out. But I think to a certain extent, and Deirdre will know better, it seems from my friends that are going back, it seems like if you are willing to work in the more expensive to live areas, there may be a few more jobs on the go.
How was it for you coming in? Like how was the process of getting into the country? Was it complicated?
So you just have to, if you have to follow all the steps, and there's on the website they'll walk you through it. And so you have to have the initial qualifications, and I was studying, so I had to have whatever it took to get me into university. And then once I had the teachers college, then I had to meet all the other criteria. And so you just had to go through the checklist. And then at that time, my school was able to help with part of the process in terms of saying that they were willing to employ me. And so it wasn't hard, but there was a lot of pieces. But
Okay.
yeah.
How long were you in New Zealand?
I was there I had to live a certain amount of years before I could change from that residency into citizenship.
Mhm.
And so I had to show my commitment to the country. At that time, I think it was 3 years before I could
Okay.
make the switch to citizenship.
Okay, so because that's an interesting pathway for a lot of people. So you now have a New Zealand and a Canadian passport, right?
Yes, I'm on. Yes,
Yeah, and so which one do you travel on the most? That's an interesting
I do
question,
everything.
right?
I do everything on my Kiwi passport. And if I exit the country, I apologize for my accent and tell people I'm from New Zealand. But the only time I use my Canadian passport is Canada mandates that if you have citizenship, you must enter the country on a Canadian passport. That's the only time I use it.
Yeah, most countries are like that. Yeah. Interesting. Is that helpful? I know that'll be helpful to some people as we're navigating different pathways and things like that. Deirdre and Vicky, would you guys be open if anyone on this call wants to just reach out and connect with either of you and talk to you about either of those processes?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because like we're building an international market now and international opportunities and pathways. Like some of us want to run from New Zealand, but there are actually people that want to go there. Oh dear. I want to jump over. Manal, you're navigating Germany. How's your
Hi.
application going for getting back into Germany?
Well, I'm studying now. I have examination 29th of May.
Your language test?
So yeah, I'm studying. Yeah, the
Oh.
language test, and then I think everything is like just applying for papers for the citizenship, and that's all. That's the last step. The hardest part, I have no time to study, but I force myself. So let's see.
Oh my life. So for those people that don't know, Manal is married to a German gentleman and they've been married forever. And have lived in LA.
15 years.
Yeah, 15 years. And she hasn't got around
Yeah.
to doing her German passport, and she should have a long time ago. And has been facing all sorts of barriers and things there. Now, Manal, for you, there's somebody else on the call that I want to connect you with. Anna is on this call, and she's super interested in finding out a lot more about IB and how IB works and things. And so today's almost like a join the dots and connecting different people. But if Anna wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about IB, would you be open to having her connect with you?
Yeah, sure.
That would be super, super groove. Excellent. Now, I met with Manal this week when I was in Elaine, and she wanted to pick up a book. She wanted to borrow a book from me. Did you read that book to your class, to your students?
Yeah, we started and then I completed by myself.
So,
Yeah, but it was interesting for some students and they were really engaging. And some they said they will buy the book and complete reading it by themselves, and some they said that their parents they have the book and they saw their parents reading it, but they were never thinking to read it because they thought it's something for adults.
okay, so now everybody's on the mystery of what book are we talking about? So it's a book that has been sitting on my coffee table for a wee while, and I reviewed it a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, within the last year, and put it on our site and the channel. But The Coffee Bean. And so an incredible leadership story and moral of the story and those sorts of things there. But Manal wanted to use it. Who did you use it with? Which grade level, which classes? Like, why did you choose that book?
Yeah, I used it with my grade 9 students and one of my grade 10s, one class only. Well, because there were some issues and conflicts inside the classes, and I wanted to give them some tips and some, let's say, some way to adapt with change. And I thought this is the best book to read with them, or to give them as a moral, as a tips, as whatever you can call it. And it worked. It was amazing. So I chose at the beginning some quotes from the book, and I put them everywhere in the classroom. And then I came inside with the coffee beans, and I was like giving them the coffee beans, and I said choose one, and they were like laughing. What is the difference between this and this? And then I gave them, and I said, now you will compare it with the one sits next to you. And for my shock, they found so many things, but still it's a coffee bean. So I wanted to give them the idea that we are all the same, but in different personalities, in different ways of adapting things. And then I started to show the codes, find me the best that you find. And we discussed this. I showed them the book. I said, it's talking about this and this. And what do you think about the codes? And they were giving me some ideas. And basically we solved their problem. And they were like, oh, Miss, you're genius. I said, no, you need to find ways. Yeah. So yeah, they were interesting to read it. We read some lines from the book. And yeah, that's how I gave it.
What subject do you teach?
Which
Integrated
subject? Humanities.
Yeah. So integrated humanities, and then they're around kind of moving into a business model, into an understanding of how we work with people model.
Well, because I co-teach with business, but they are not my focus at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's quite a cool way of solving problems that do come up with students and things, but it's also a really cool way of introducing your students to leadership reading. It's a nice
and they never
segue into it. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, they never thought that they can read such books. Because they thought it's for adults, and for what? They had no idea how to use some books, and that it works for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting.
It would be really interesting to see where you could take that with them. Like, I know we're coming to the end of the academic year, but if you did a book a month with them of those easier in books, like
it's amazing.
So the book that when I was talking about is the coffee bean, and those that have been into my office, I used to have it sitting on the coffee table in my office with a jar of coffee beans on it. And it's a very easy to get through book, but it talks about change, and it talks about are you going to be open to change? Are you going to be do you want to be an egg, a carrot, or a coffee bean? Okay. Take your pick. Do you want to be an egg, a carrot, or a coffee bean? Okay, and then you go, okay. So they make their choices, and then I'll give you the synopsis of the book, but it's absolutely brilliant. And then you say to okay, so what happens to, why did you choose an egg? Why did you choose carrot? Why did you choose coffee bean? And people come up with their reasons. And you say, well, what happens to an egg when you put it in hot water in stressful situations? And, it might have been hard on the outside and soft in the middle, but suddenly the inside goes hard, and it hardens up, and it becomes less caring or less open or less receptive. It just becomes one solid, hard mess. And then mass. And then you've got a carrot. And what happens to a carrot when it gets into stressful situations or boiling water? It actually just softens and becomes a blithering mess. It just turns into nothing and into pulp. Where what happens to a coffee bean? It actually just changes and morphs and turns into something quite delicious and quite amazing that can actually give people strength and power and get them through a day. So which one do you want to be? So that's quite a brilliant, brilliant book. One for leadership learning, but also for beginning and stepping students into it.
Yeah.
A couple of the others that you might look at are like Who Moved My Cheese? Like, and talking about change there. That's a lovely little one about the ability to change in human core and being stubborn and actually not going with the flow and learning to be more open and receptive to people. So that could be the next one. And then there's a couple more that go with that. Step you into those when you get there. But what an awesome thing to do, to be teaching your students that. Kind of fun. Really fun.
I used your review actually. Also, I read the review at the beginning.
Yay! Tell them to subscribe.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So funny. Right, Miss Vicky, are you still around? I want to know what's happening in India at the moment. Hi, Maria.
Yes, I'm still around.
How's India going? How's Mumbai? For those that don't know, Miss Vicky's just made the massive move to Mumbai. Her dogs have finally arrived. She's finally settling into life.
Yes, I was just checking on one of my dogs because she's getting, she's old. So I just had to check on her because she's got a wee bit of a problem. But otherwise, no, everything's going well. The school is amazing. As the end of year approaches, it's getting really busy because they're a well-established school, but we've opened a new section of it. And because they've been open for 20 years, they kind of forget how many years it took to get them to where they are. So for us, every once in a while, that means building an infrastructure and delivering an item at the same standard as the other schools. And that's a bit intense, like the end of the year production and stuff, because none of the teachers know what it's meant to look like. So it just gives a little bit extra to the effort of doing it when we're all kind of trying to learn it at the same time. But it's a very warm place. And for people who are looking for a next place to work, I would consider India. It is an adjustment. If you've been to in the Middle East, if you've been to a city like Cairo, it's busy like that. When you're in central Cairo, there's lots of cars going around. There's lots for your eyes to see. There's lots for your ears to hear. It's that kind of busy. But the people are very friendly here. You get a mix of, anything you want. You get local, you get international. So once you get used to the hustle and bustle, it's a nice place. The people are incredibly friendly and they're working hard to be the kindness capital of India, and that gels with me. I like that as a goal to be immersed in. And the school, you always have to find the school that has values that align with yours. And this school is new, so it's still on a journey to really gel, but it is definitely in a direction that makes my heart happy.
That's awesome, because I know you were leaving the Middle East and then you went through and explored lots and lots and lots of different options around the world, and actually dropping into something where it feels like you can trust people, and building that, and that people are there being positive and they're actually genuine in their positivity. It's quite a new thing, like actually being able to trust people again.
Yeah.
Right. Have you sorted out your visa?
Yes, I have everything in my passport that I need to have in my passport, so that's very nice. And this company is very thoughtful and they look out for people, and they know that language might be an issue. So, the school doctors are always they connect with everyone. So if somebody isn't feeling well, they can approach the school doctor who will help them get whatever appointment they need. And we've had and that kind of thing is helpful.
Wow.
Like we've had a couple of people across like the network of schools, because it goes from preschool up to high school. That's what I mean when I say the network of schools. It's one school, but there's buildings to house the different cohorts. And we've had people in each of the buildings that have had reason to need a doctor, some quite serious reasons and some just normal reasons, and they have been the safety net has been there for them, even though they haven't been home. And so that's, you can't ask for more.
Excellent. Now, I know somebody who was considering Thailand. You were considering Thailand at one stage. Why did you move India and not Thailand?
So Thailand, I think it depends on, well, what I was finding. It may, other people may have a different experience, but my kind of, as I was trying to break into that market in leadership, I got the sense that Thailand's a very popular destination, so they get a lot of applications. So if you're entering as a teacher, they seem to be more open to taking teachers from anywhere and not necessarily needing experience in country or in that curriculum. Whereas for leaders, they can pick and choose, just like Dubai, they can pick and choose from a wide variety of people. So if you haven't got any kind of that networking element, if they don't know you in any way, shape, or form, it's not always easy to break into the leadership in Thailand, because they have their own networks of people. They have people within the school that want to stay and move up. So that was the piece that I found it harder. I mean, if you're looking off season as well, if your finances allow you to look off season, that makes it slightly more flexible. But Thailand seemed like a place that it would be possible to enter kind of as a teacher. And now they've got more, they're growing at the upper end of the school, at the elite schools are starting to move in, because the Chinese are sending their kids there. So if you have experience in one of the elite networks, or if you have Chinese experience, I'm predicting that in a year or so that could help. Because like, if I'm trying to think who went there, it wasn't King's, but it was one of those kind of networks. They're going to be open to people who have experience in their network.
Right. Got it. And Miss Angelique, what about you? How's it going getting into Saudi? You're on the move over there?
It's going. They've just decided recently that they're now doing the qualification verification process. So we get to now be the updated batch of people that go through a qualification verification process, which is a new process for them. So it's a little bit all over the place. So I'm waiting for documents to come back from South Africa, because it's the apostling of the documents, but they have to kind of see where it's going to and where it's coming from and what you actually need to have done. And it seems like different countries need different things. So my documents are currently sitting in South Africa in the apostle process. And then last week I got an email to say, oh, now you need QVP as well, which can only happen when the documents come back from the apostle process. And then it goes to a company or the government agency in Saudi. And then they contact your universities and stuff in your home country to check that your degree is relevant and that everything was fine, and that our teaching practical was actually a teaching practical and all the other stuff. So that's the fun part of my life.
The resilience we all have to show just to get into a job, you know.
Yes. So, yeah.
It makes
it's
life in New Zealand sound
that
simple,
timeline,
you know.
Yeah. It's that timeline stressful when you're looking at it the end of April and you're like, this process can take anything up to 6 weeks, they say. It could be a couple of days, it could be a couple of weeks.
There's a real market popping in South Africa, in Saudi Arabia at the moment. And so I think that's why they've got these systems coming in, is because there's such exponential growth, and they've got more of an intake of people. And I'm talking jobs all over the show, not just going into a leadership job or straight teaching job. That's where a lot of classroom assistants and people like that are going too. So their system obviously needs the,
they have everything, because everything is booming. So they're busy building, whether it's schools, across from the school that we're supposed to be going to is a new university, a science and tech university that they're creating, and a research and innovation center is just around the corner, and about an hour down the road is supposed to be a new like flagship almost like a Aquaventure Atlantis Dubai kind of thing, but it's supposed to be Six Flags plus the water park and this giant center that they're busy building that they're supposed to be opening up as well. So everything is just opening and opening and opening. So they're looking for the people, but I think it's now they've got a lot of people wanting to come in, but their infrastructure isn't quite there yet. So they're trying to figure out the infrastructure as they go along, which I think then delays things a little bit. We'll just hold fingers
Inshallah,
and
will
thumbs
keep us
and-
updated. And if there are people looking at going to Saudi, going and connecting on this call, connect with Angelique. I'm just a great networker today.
I see, so you're on your network
I
mode today.
I just see there's someone that's popped in on this call, Maria, who is new to this call, and she is a friend and colleague of Angelique's. And I got to connect with Maria during doing a profile and doing some online stuff with her through Leadership and Pictures. But I have to say that was my highlight of the week. I connected with Angelique. Angelique had been like long time caller, but never ever speaking in terms of Leadership and Pictures years ago. And Deirdre, you'll love this. Like it's like News Talk ZB, you know, long time listener, first time caller. And so Angelique had been on our meetings and things like that, and she never ever spoke up. She sat there in the background, she listened, she enjoyed it, and then I was at a conference, and this person comes up and goes, "Hi, I think I like," and we made that connection, and then after that, it just took off, and we've had regular connection and lots of time together since, and it's been a delightful journey that's come from there. Well, Angelique put me in touch with Maria, and Maria had done this profile and things with me, and I was at a conference this week. I was doing NIWA, you know, map stuff at USMA, just the whole map analysis and all of these things. And standing there in the middle of this room, and this person standing next to me and looks at me, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, I know this face. And she's like, and I grab her lanyard because you know me in personal space, and I'm not great. I just touch people and do whatever I'm not meant to do. And I'm like, I know you online. And it was just so delightful. Not only did she help me to the bathroom and navigate me, because everyone knows how I am challenged with navigation and I just need someone to get me there and get me back. She was a lifesaver there. But it was just so delightful to connect with somebody face to face after living a life online with them. So I just want to say thank you to Maria for being my highlight of the week. I love that whole I know you, no, like in that connection and saving my life at conference and managing me. But also thank you, Angelique, for connecting the two of us. Pretty cool. I don't know if Maria wants to say anything. She's going to be one of those long-time listeners, no-time speakers. But just delightful, and I want to thank you for that. Maria.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think I'll be a listener, but I would just say when I met you over the weekend, or no, during the week, I actually said it felt like I just met a celebrity in real life. So that was very special. When I saw you, I know I recognized your face, but it wasn't just the face. It was like I knew the personality. It was almost like the aura. And I don't normally walk over to people and say I know you, but I just had to say I know you from somewhere. So that was very special. So thank you, Angelique. I really appreciate it.
Oh, but I want to thank you because it's really, really lovely when you actually get to meet and spend time with people. And I know our time was brief, but I did take a photo and I sent it to Angelique, but I cut myself out of the photo because I'm also very, very fussy on photos. And I decided it was a really bad looking photo of me, but a great photo of you. So I edited it and sent the photo of you, not me. But just delightful to have you joining in on this too. So really, really cool to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and chime in with anything. Hi, Asma. Haven't seen you for a wee while. Asma's gearing up for inspection.
Hi, Miss Anna. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we are getting up for inspection, and things are like never ready, if that's the correct way. Still going on board, yes, but Monday, Tuesday, best wishes to us. We have Irtika coming, so let's see how it goes.
I love that. I live over in a hotel in Elaine a couple of nights a week at the moment, and I've worked out that all the inspectors are there. That's where the inspector hotel is. And so if I sit outside at night at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, they all turn up for dinner. And then I can listen into all the conversations. What's going on? No, not really. And who's connected with what. And I know why I knew this is that one night I was sitting there having dinner quietly and I heard somebody say 3.1, 3.2. And I was like, huh? The only 3.1 and 3.2 I know is in the inspection framework. And then I listened in a bit further, and there were all these British voices, because most of our inspectors are from Britain. And yeah, they were talking through the learning framework, the inspection framework. And I was like, oh my life. And then I scurried off to my room because at the end of the week, one of our schools was being inspected, and I was in that school and I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be identified, you see. But now our schools have finished their inspection. I'm going back to sit out there this week to listen in and see what else I can learn. So, yeah. Well,
Yeah, maybe.
Go.
No, I was just joking that maybe then I should come for dinner and maybe I can, hear out something, some discussion going on.
I'll host a dinner, shall I? I guess the other thing is anyone that is interested in learning more, like I cannot recommend enough doing the tribal inspection trainings and things. Like even if you're, excuse me, going off into Saudi or into one of these other countries, getting through that tribal inspection training. Maria, if you're going into that role and things, if there's a way that you could get some of that learning done, or I can help you with some of the understandings in that, certainly do that. I've been offered another training this week, so I'm doing three trainings at the moment. So I'm a NEASC visitor / inspector for NEASC, and I've done the tribal training for inspection. And at the moment, I'm partway through Cognia, and our schools are going through Cognia accreditation, which is another American accreditation system. And then I've just been registered for school improvement to do the ADEC inspector training. So it just gives you such a different perspective of what different systems look for, and how you do that whole thing about school improvement. One of the interesting things in this new job that I'm doing with school improvement and looking at improved practice is our director, our general manager of our company, she is tribal trained, but she was the tribal teacher and taught people, like the tutor, and trained everybody in the country for the last 15 years in the tribal inspection framework. And one of her things is that we have to, and breathe deep here, Anna and Mohammed, having worked with me recently, we have to do a minimum of 20 classroom observations a week. 20. And each of those are a minimum of 25 minutes to an hour.
That's helpful.
Yeah. And we aggregate that data, and I sit with the SLT every single day, and I don't do any of those observations by myself. I'll sit with a head of department or an SLT and we'll talk about practice. And so I said at the beginning of the week, a learning vein. And so the first 2 weeks has been about English implementation and how we move English teachers forward. And another interesting thing is what we notice is that we've got really great content happening with our teachers. They know what to teach. And it's more about the process of how and how we teach it. And in true Anna style, I've flipped the whole scope and sequence upside down. And so no longer is it on Mondays we do this and on Tuesdays we do this, or Anna and Mohammed are laughing their heads off at the moment as they listen to this. No longer is there a PowerPoint that says you must do this and you must do this and you must do this. The PowerPoint is still there. But what we were finding is teachers were becoming compliant, brilliant, if you want to, it's all about control. And teachers were fantastic at following the sequence of a lesson and making sure all the elements were in there. But it was not about learning and it was not about engagement. And teachers could easily get weak or acceptable, but very, very few people, and more often it was coming out as weak, because students just tune out, and the older they are, the faster they tune out, the faster they actually get rid of you and spit you out the other side. And then they want to skip and they want to do all these things. So we're doing a model lesson on Monday with no PowerPoint, because for teachers who want to be good, very good, or outstanding, it's actually taking those elements of the lesson and creating it in a way that increases massive engagement, and making sure that there's the practical tactile. We have flipped it upside down. We're not preloading vocabulary. We're doing vocabulary building through experience. And so particularly in English lessons, our first 6 lessons are all about sharing the reading, pulling the readings apart, highlighting words you don't know, and following their vein of investigation to vocabulary, not what we are drilling and killing into them. Because what I know in working with teachers and working with students, if you do just-in-time learning when they need it, it's urgent, they pick it up faster and they want it. If it's just-in-case learning, you're lucky if you get 10%.
Whoa.
So, yeah, I know it's not the right advice to give you going into an inspection to throw everything out the window, because your school will want compliance and conforming and making sure everyone's doing it their way. But really start thinking about where I'm pushing teachers really hard in this last 8 weeks of the term about how you are teaching, not just what. Yeah. Deirdre, jump in.
It's a little bit like losing the joy of teaching and learning as a team because you're following a set template process. So no one learns to think for self. Your kids don't become problem solvers, they become problems. And I think it just defeats the purpose of what we're doing, but it meets master's wills.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we're going through here at the moment. That you will comply, and you'll do it this way, which we've never really had this level of compliance before, I don't think. And you can see teachers losing their joy in a classroom. So unless you're prepared as a leader to step over that mark, which, surprise, then they're just following along. Like we don't use slide decks like you guys use, but it's the same sort of idea. A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah,
because you guys have adopted a lot of the not adopted, but some things have been imposed into your system about some very British resources that are very ABC, paint my numbers, and it's going to be interesting to watch because New Zealanders are far from ABC and paint by numbers. New Zealanders like to say what they think, and and actually like, nah, unless that works, unless that connects, then I'm not actually going to do it. And New Zealand students, it's a culture thing in New Zealand.
Opinionated.
Yeah, they have a voice. They want to be heard, and if they don't like it, they're going to tell you that, nah, miss, this is stink, or
Yeah.
this is rubbish. So
You know, I think that the biggest thing is when you've spent years developing student voice and ensuring that they know that they're allowed to have an opinion and how to do it, you know, with respect, to then be told, no, you are no longer a thinking human being. You know, it's almost like saying you're not worth anything anymore. You're just a kid that's in front of us, and we have to follow process that isn't allowing you to think for self.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
works whether it's for students, but also for teachers too. It kills the culture of learning, and you actually then get teachers that turn up from 8 till 4, and then they take off, and they don't care, and they're not as connected as they were. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just I think the thing for me, the critical thing is that my teachers don't lose the relationship with their kids because of this new system. So I have to find a way to sort of, you know, finagle my way around it slightly, so that we're still doing what we have to do, but we're doing it with our own flavour.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to not lose our kids. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to work with the school that I'm working with at the moment, and they're phenomenal. I just love they're just sponges waiting to absorb everything and get going. And so we've got people, we're building autonomy instead of and building teacher voice and teacher and leader voice in the system. And it's really exciting to watch. They just want to have a go at stuff, and it's breaking down that I'm too scared to take a risk, to go on, we'll back you up, it's going to be okay, and building that culture. So yeah, it's fun. It's really fun, but it's actually hard to get teachers to take risks. And unless your teachers are going to take risks, your students won't. They won't do it with their students. So I'm really excited. Monday, I have a teacher who is prepared to do this in one lesson, just one, and she's going to have a go. And we've been doing a lot of coaching and things over the week, and we've got her whole English team coming in to watch. And it's a lesson she's never taught before. We've got the SLT coming in, and we're going to video it. And so it's like, OMG, watch this space. Jaden, you wanted to say something?
Sorry, the topic most recently is very much one that's close to my heart because, you watch a lot of these quasi-inspirational clips that they send around in education newsletters and things about making students future-proof, and you don't want people who can be replaced by AI. But I find so much of that is being pushed into teacher, what would you call it, boxing it in with these checklist things, because that's been one of the things mostly that I've worked on in the last year. Is I was watched with some lessons, and then the expectation was that I should distill my practice into a checklist and then issue that checklist to teachers and have them repeat it. But, what's being said are sort of things that, in some classes, I might use the fact that I climbed Kilimanjaro as the original provocation in the start of the year. And then it's sort of an ongoing provocation and bits and pieces tied into it. So the checklist can't work for me in the same way it does for you. You connect with those students in a different way. And if teachers are just pressing next on this PowerPoint, now it's the I do, and then we do this, and then it's the we do. And so, by distilling one person's practice into a checklist, you're destroying sort of, I don't even know what you would call it. It's not even the framework. It's, you can't just generically transplant these things. The other thing that I find very curious, particularly in our setting and in international schools, is you draw on best practice by recruiting from around the world, and then you refine all of this practice into an Excel spreadsheet that's been issued to you by some accounting department. Why waste the money on the recruitment of drawing these great minds from Scotland and Australia and New Zealand and whatnot, and then you force them into a box that fits just inside a very small context decided by 3 people in a committee room. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think you've just touched on a really good point. That I think a checklist is hugely important and hugely, hugely valuable. If you don't know what the hell you're doing,
Yeah. Uh,
if you are completely lost, a checklist or a how-to or whatever is brilliant because it helps you get started. But if you need a checklist, you are not going to be self-driven. You are not going to really understand the dynamics of learning and the nuances that where you need to be bouncing and pivoting and all those things that come through in IB and all those things that come through in exceptional practice. Because what makes the difference between an acceptable teacher and an outstanding teacher? The outstanding teacher bounces and empowers and flows and doesn't need the control and doesn't need the structure. The structure becomes so organic that the kids are running and setting up the structure themselves. And there ain't no checklist for that.
Agree. I mean, if you look at complicated sort of things like a pilot has a checklist at the start and at the end, but where the pilot skill really comes into its own is where things don't go according to plan. Then there isn't
Exactly.
a checklist, and that's where you're looking at sort of, their thought processes and things. And what's curious to me is that a lot of these sort of higher powers would come in and watch a lesson that I've done, which didn't follow a checklist, because sometimes, I mean, in the desert, it doesn't rain very often. So if it were to rain, I take the kids outside and we sit in the light mist and I don't know, I've got them writing poems and things because you've got to make use of the fact that the rain is only once every 3 years sort of thing. I can't put that in a spreadsheet or on a what would you put there? Number one, be spontaneous. The fact that you've been instructed to be spontaneous is by its very nature not spontaneous. So bizarre,
Love
really
it.
bizarre.
Love it. Vicky, bounce in.
No, I mean, I wouldn't put be spontaneous, but I might respond to students as needed. Just something that something to consider instead of saying checklist when I'm talking to people and I'm trying to explain that need to have components that are matching but still having some flexibility. I'll talk about recipes, because if you think about like in North America, probably in Europe too, but in North America, they will have variations for altitude. Okay, so everyone's got the same piece, but for altitude, it makes a difference how hot the oven needs to be. And if you're cooking, people think it's normal that if you don't have such and such a pot, you're going to adapt in this way. Or if you don't have this, you might add that. And they'll always know to add in that pinch of love. And recipes are very structured, but people are used to putting their own flair in it. And that has helped me in conversations where I'm trying to explain adapting, but staying within parameters. So that may help others.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll ever you can't get to good and very good and outstanding. You can't get to being the Michelin star chef where you do have the ability to be creative and to bounce and to design your own if you haven't had those foundations. And that's where if you don't start with the foundations, you don't start with the recipe, you're never going to be able to bounce and make it and master it and, personalize it. So certainly the recipe is where you should start. And I think, I am not one for textbooks. I am not one for teachers working from a particular program or anything like that. But what I am really, there is a lot of really good work that has gone into a lot of these. And I certainly wouldn't throw a teacher handbook for a program out without pulling it apart and pulling all the great parts out of it and using it as a foundation and a starting point. My concern is where people do it as a prescription and not as with thought. It's the thought that they bring to it. And it's my whole thing that I come back to in every discussion we have, because Jaden loves this, is anything to do with AI. And that is, how is it helping us and are we using it with thought and not just by plugging in a formula. And this is my shout out to Vicky, and I want to say thank you to that for the video you sent me on Toddle. And I've since then gone off and met with the Toddle team here. We've had 2 promos with it into looking as a consideration. We haven't decided yet on our model, but the AI work that is going in and around Toddle, I just love, because it's focused and purposeful. It's about personalizing learning within a learning session, and students using AI around a learning topic and then feeding things back to them, and the teacher getting a whole summary of needs, the pre-marking that's going on of even written pieces using AI, the whole drive of building AI in to save teachers on average about 10 hours a week. Any way that that's going to help me but still maintain really good quality work, and I'm thinking it and I'm driving it, not the AI is driving it, then I'm all for it. And that's where I'm loving that Toddle connection and that movement down that way, and how they are using it. And if anyone's looking at just different ways of supporting their systems, and you are looking at LMS systems and things, my God, Toddle's fresh in the market, really. They're only 6 or 7 years old, but where they're going and their responsiveness is brilliant.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant. Love it. And it's built by teachers. It's not built by a company wanting to make money. They want to make money, yeah. But like some of the presentations I've sat through recently, and I've because of my knowledge with Toddle and the AI support and things in there, I've been asking these of other providers, and they're like, but it's too expensive to build in, or we're not there yet. And I'm like, if that's the way that you're thinking, you're not going to keep up.
Sorry, Sandra,
Yeah,
sorry,
go.
how do you spell it out?
TODDLE.
Got it.
Okay. Have a look at
I found an equivalent, not quite an equivalent, but I found a really solid platform for anyone looking to develop physical literacy in their schools. It's about roughly 500 Australian dollars for the year, and it gives you incredible support for physical literacy from birth to grade 12.
Fantastic. What's it called?
That one's called Kiddo, and it's out of Western Australia University. And so you see some videos are with kids and some I think are student teachers, but it's brilliant because it gives the whys, it gives the hows, it gives teachers a playbook of the lesson, tells them the resources, shows them how to set it up, shows them a video often of the activity in action, helps them with assessment to develop fundamental movement skills. If it's this is actually a good one for where you're going, Angelique, because they also have just started a sport platform. So for taking your ECAs and taking your teams to the next level, it would help.
Thank you.
Really interesting too that that's a literacy focus, because Deirdre, you remember back in the day, really big literacy focus coming out of Western Australia. Like Western Australia is really deep in literacy practice, and they don't get the credit that they deserve for it.
It was PE. PE.
Oh, physical literacy. Okay. Sorry, I was thinking literacy, because the first steps in the material coming out of literacy of Western Australia is huge. But again, Australia with PE and the sport movement and things, you couldn't get to a better country in the world. Could not.
Yeah.
Like their teaching of physical development is stunning. Absolutely stunning. That's really, really helpful. The other one that I hooked up with a couple of weeks ago in the last month, if anyone is interested, is, and I put it in the newsletter that I emailed out yesterday, EduSpark. Again, a Kiwi guy, his name's Craig, who set this up out of Singapore. And I met with him face to face. Bronnie and those guys do a bit of work with him too. But he set up this whole company about professional learning. And different people from around the world are dropping in and writing content and things for him. But yeah, it's online learning. It's online professional learning and things that you can pick and choose all sorts of different things from, and some of them are free. But the whole philosophy behind it is that it's authentic and it connects back to practice. It's not just doing an online and getting a certificate for it. It's about how does it actually come into your real life and your work in the classroom or with your team. So that's just a quiet little plug there. I'm using a trial for a month and doing a couple of courses in there just to check the content and the validity of it. So yeah, watch this space on that one. Anyone else got anything that they want to promo this month? Anything that's jumping out at them they want to talk about? Otherwise, we'll spin into winding up. Miss Deirdre, anything?
No, I have no promos of anything.
Yeah, promo New Zealand. You need teachers.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I know lots of schools do.
Yeah.
I just don't find myself in that situation too often, thank goodness.
No, you're a bit lucky. You're a bit lucky because you're pretty good. Here's Miss Deirdre who sits in her lovely little school, doesn't want to go any bigger, enjoys with just her small little network and loving life in New Zealand. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll catch up with everybody soon. Yes, Miss Asma?
Yeah, no promos, Miss Arna. Yeah, but just wanted to tell Vicky because she's in India. I'm an Indian. In case she needs help with the language or anything, I can jump in to help her.
Oh, stay on the line for a minute and we'll trade numbers like after everybody hangs out.
Sure.
There we go. I'll send you Asma's number anyway, Vicky. And Vicky,
Perfect.
I'll send you Asma's number so that you can WhatsApp each other.
Oh, perfect.
Right.
That's even better. Thank you.
Very, very cool. Okay. Well, I'll save the recording and I'll post it and send you guys all some stuff. Anyone interested in starting some courses? I'm starting some in the next couple of weeks. Anyone who hasn't done course 1 or knows anybody that wants to do course 1, and it's just getting started and understanding and doing your profile and things. I've got that starting. And then in a couple of weeks' time after that, I'm actually going to start course 3, which I've had a couple of people trial with me, which is kind of cool, where it's really going to help people step through, particularly if you're going into a new beginning. But if you're really interested in that strategic thinking or battling the new, but we're calling it productive disruption. So when you want to disrupt and start, it's kind of fun. So just let me know. Anyway, thanks for joining, and thank you for people who have volunteered to make those connections and been open to those connections. Anybody want to message me afterwards and say, hey, who was that lady? Feel free. I will connect you all as it works across, okay? Because we're all here to pull each other through. And there are a couple of you online going into inspection this week. May the force be with you. If you need anything, let me know. All right. We've been there and done that and got a few T-shirts in the last few weeks with our teams. So sing out. Okay. All right. Take care. Talk to you guys soon.
Guys.
All right.
Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Yeah, you too. Right.
And Arna, you'll send Asma and I each other's numbers so we can.
I'll send it to you now, and then you can connect. Is that all right?
Perfect.
I'll hang up.
Perfect.
Vicky,
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Okay.